strategic plan. We envision the University of Venda that relevance as an institution of higher learning. It signifies that the university is not only focused on academic excellence, but also aims to be relevant and responsive to the needs and challenges of the communities around us. Our view of a university is that universities must be catalysts for building inclusive societies, and that they should play their role as anchor institutions in the processes of social change and development where they are located. Honourable Minister, colleague and colleagues, key to this is a multifaceted collaboration involving municipalities, private businesses, international partnerships, grassroots organizations, local royal council, civic organizations, and the impact and the reach of the university, leading to a more holistic approach to community. Let's also just add that UNIVEN might be one of the few universities, I think, even in the world, that have signed MOUs with such traditional authorities. And of that we are very proud. The university contributes enormously to the socio-economic development, not only of our province, but to the entire country, by producing well-rounded graduates. Honourable Minister, as shared with you earlier, many of our graduates occupy strategic leadership positions in both private and public sectors in the country. Your delegation has got a couple of alumni from this very university. Is very laudable. As management, we understand that the standing of the university is often determined by the quality of its outputs, which includes factors such as academic performance of its students, research publications, faculty expertise, alumni achievement, and contributions to society. Program Director, this public lecture will focus on the land expropriation bill. For so many years, land expropriation and land reform have been a contentious issue in our country. This lecture provides a great opportunity to the expropriation bill. This engagement has come at the right time when we are gearing ourselves up for the general elections. This will, in our view, enrich people's understanding of how land will be redistributed for the benefit of communities around us. This matter is of particular interest in that agriculture is one of the focuses. For agriculture to thrive, there need to be sustainable access to the land. We believe that through this bill, our communities will gain benefit and access to valuable land will be unlimited. Honourable Minister, this is indeed an auspicious occasion that dedicates our people to exploration and land reform. We are hoping that you have taken time out of your busy schedule to come engage with us and us as a community on this particular important subject. We are a university undergoing immense transformation. We are overhauling our systems to more agile and responsive, to be more agile and responsive around us. Access to land will indeed reduce the availability of such programs going into the future. This is of particular interest challenges facing society. We must take interest in being part of the solutions for challenges facing our society.
I'm standing here, I'm the product of this university. I got my first degree from the University of America. And I must say that since during our time in the 90s, and when you look at the development, I think it is one can only say I'm so proud of the work you do on a daily basis. Let me be responsible for she is a product, but also that masters in the university.
For the 4 degrees that I actually have, we are currently finalizing the process of expropriation through parliamentary processes. The bill covers some exciting provisions in its clause that talks to expropriation without compensation. The lecture is going to actually cover that. I'm not going to go into those details. I'm just reflecting the purpose which necessitated us to come and give this lecture today, which is going to be given by our Honorable Minister, Minister Sylvester Scala. I'm just taking some highlights of the lecture in terms of what necessitated us to come and share the lecture with you. The bill talks about expropriation at will, which is in line with the Constitution of the country, particularly Section 25, as it states. There's a talk around the country to say that why are we talking about real compensation? We're talking about real compensation because the country is anchored within the Constitution, which is the law that guides us in terms of our practices. So the lecture is going to actually shed light in terms of those areas, and on the basis of the light that is going to be shed, you will actually have a clear picture in terms of what we're talking about when we talk about our expropriation bill, which is quite different to other expropriation that are spoken about in other countries. And take into consideration that expropriation is not unique only to South Africa, it's also done in other countries, but it's called in different names. So we should not be afraid when we hear the word expropriation. So the purpose of the lecture is to clarify and give you some evidence so that you can actually understand where we're coming from with our expropriation. Without taking to the lecture itself, I think that's the purpose of us here. We want to clarify, and therefore, the basis of the clarity that is going to be given, we can actually perhaps make 1 or 2 people around the bill itself. Chairperson, I think in a nutshell, that is the purpose of this lecture, and I think I'll end up here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, DDG. As MEC Razvan is preparing to come to the floor, please, when I joined the university, it was 3 years after democracy. And I think Mudaula, I don't know, was one of the same age. When we were the first beneficiaries of what we used to call TAPSA, now you call it NSFAS. You are very likely, our young people, because during our time, I think it was covering about 40%, and your parents are 50%. Now we are told that it covers 100%, it covers accommodation, it covers everything. So those are some of the benefits of democracy and the minister that we need to pride ourselves with. So most of the students that time, had to drop out because parents would not be able to afford the 60%. So you don't have a reason to drop out. You must finish your degrees and continue to learn and learn and learn. Because these are the opportunities that democracy brought with you. So you must enjoy this lecture. Over to you, Honorable Amici.
Thank you very much, Honorable MEC, my colleague in the Executive Council of the province led by Premier Chubus and Matawata, to our Honorable Minister, the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure Development in the Republic of South Africa, Honorable Zifle Zikalala, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Dr. Martin, the Registrar of the University, Mr. Baloy, and the entire management of the university. MEC for Public Works in the province, MEC Kakare, the Mayor of Colin Chavani, our two speakers, the Speaker of the District, Mr. Dola Nekuda, and the Speaker of Colin Chavani, Makazibotina Wanga, all government officials in our midst, the leadership and members of the student community, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to all of you. MEC, if you want to really witness, Honorable Minister, that some of us, we are students of this university, come during the exam time. You will find us queuing with all the students who are supposed to write in the same venue with us, receiving instruction from the security officers. You put aside your position in government, you take instruction from the officials of the university. That's how we really subject ourselves to the learning in this university, because we are benefiting a lot. Receive our revolutionary greetings on this historic occasion, which is meant to undo and rectify one of apartheid's fundamental offenses of land dispossession and theft. Program Director, we are not apologetic with our crusade of rectifying this anomaly of apartheid, which has removed our people from all the arable land and located them in barren areas which are of little economic use. This is one of apartheid's main sins in this country, and it is important that we must teach our youth of this painful past as we chart a way forward into the future. It is important that the youth of this country should understand the historical injustice that have confined black people in restricted spaces and placed their white counterparts in spacious arable pieces of land. It is because of apartheid that the majority of our people have to travel to work, because its policies of segregation did not allow them to take residence in town and cities. To this day, we are still witnessing black people using a bigger part of their wages on transport costs because apartheid had thrown them far from economic nodes. While this country's constitution enjoins us with a variety of rights, including the right to land and property ownership, it must also be amended to allow those who have stolen our land to return it to its rightful owners. We have identified land reform as a priority of this democratic government because we have witnessed the far-reaching ramifications caused by land dispossessions amongst our people. Because we are a responsible government, We are going about with this process in a manner that will ensure that there is food security in the country. There shall not be any land grabs while ANC-led government is still the leader of our people. It's a process that we envisage to expedite, but we also have to tread carefully in consideration of the well-being of this country and the economy. As the bread basket of the SADC region and largely the continent, we remain committed, Honorable Minister, to ensuring that this process will not harm this country's economy and will be discharged delicately so. If anything, the land expropriation program must ensure an equitable share of the land and also improve the economic conditions of the majority of the people in this country. Program Director, as Limpopo government, we are in full support of the program rolled out by national government and here today led by our Honorable Minister. Let me then proceed to the other responsibility assigned to me by the Program Director in the program of making sure that we usher the Honorable Minister to the podium. The Honorable Minister, I'm not even going to waste your time because here we are meeting with the students of the university. If you are interested in knowing his profile, either politically or academically, you know where to go. But safe to say, the leader hails from KwaZulu-Natal. He led at a very young age. Some of us, he led us in the ANC Youth League during that time. As we speak now, he graduated. He started his political activism while he was still very young. He graduated to lead the African National Congress in KZN. He became the provincial chairperson in KwaZulu-Natal. And then as we speak now, he is part of the National Executive Committee of the ruling party. And he has been assigned the responsibility to lead the people of the Republic as the Minister for Infrastructure, Public Works and Infrastructure Development. Ladies and gentlemen, can we all be on our feet as we welcome the Honorable Minister on the stage.
Thank you. MEC, I take this opportunity to extend my greetings to Dr. Martin, the Deputy Vice Chancellor of this institution. I also wish to extend my greetings to University Registrar Dr. Banoyi and the entire management of this institution. MEC, who is also the Program Director, MEC for Public Works and Infrastructure, MEC Kakareng, MEC for Transport, MEC Ratlani, our Speaker or the Mayor, first the Mayor of Colin Chabane Municipality, Councillor Maluleke, as well as the Speaker, Councillor Mbezi, the student leadership, including the SRC, student organizations that are here,
fellow colleagues and all. Maybe just to start on a different note, Dr. Martin, I think as a campus you have imposed a very greater responsibility on your shoulders. But we thank you for that. Firstly, you have committed that you shall be driven by excellency and quality in all what you are doing. And that is a telling vision that excellency should not be in opulence areas, but even here in Venda we should have excellency and quality in all what you are doing. You have secondly said, profoundly so, that you aim to create future leaders. Of course, you have created current leaders, but your determination says, in each and every epoch, there should be leaders in this society from this institution. And I think you deserve a big round of applause for that. On behalf of the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, we convey our deepest gratitude to the University of Venda for working with us in organizing this engagement. It's an engagement on the expropriation bill that is being crafted by the department to respond to replace the Expropriation Act of 1975. Now, we do so because we've got a new constitution that was adopted in 1996. But of importance is that this lecture takes place today during the International Women's Day, which reminds us of collective responsibility to dismantle patriarchy, eliminate sexism, and achieve gender equality. At the center of the sketch of gender-based violence that afflicts our communities is the persistent challenge of gender inequality and marginalization of women. Today, as we take a closer look at our journey of land reform program and the expropriation bill, let us remember that our program and policies must pay particular attention to women, as former President Samora Machel once said, as I quote, "The emancipation of women is not an act of charity, the result of humanitarian or compassionate attitude. The liberation of women is a fundamental necessity for the revolution, a guarantee of its continuity and a precondition for its victory," close quote. In a year during which we commemorate 30 years of freedom and democracy, we salute the generation of women who were at the forefront of our anti-colonial struggle, which evolved around land dispossession in our country. We pay tribute to our warrior kings and brave queens who over the centuries since 1652 fought gallantly for our land and our dignity. To conceptualize this possession of land from blacks by the white, maybe it is better to start from Sol Plaatje's narration. Sol Plaatje, in the native life in South Africa, a book he wrote to express the views about the 1913 Land Act He says, awakening on Friday morning, June 20, 1913, the South African native found himself not actually a slave, but a pariah in the land of his birth. He proceeded to say, as I quote, "The deceased child had to be buried, but where, when, and how? This young wandering family decided to dig a grave under cover of the darkness of that night, when no one was looking, and in that cruel manner, the dead body was interred, and interred amid fear and trembling, as well as throes of torturing anguish, in a stolen grave, lest the protector of sport or any of his servants should be surprised then to death." He further says, even criminals dropping straight from gallows have an undisputed claim to 6 feet of ground on which to rest forever, under the cruel operation of the Native Land Act. Little children whose only crime is that God didn't make them white are something denied that right in their ancestral home. Close quote. Now this is the description given by Saul Blackie, the then Secretary of the ANC, about the effect of dispossession imposed by the Land Act of 1913. This meant blacks were dispossessed of their land, moved from arable land to some kind of desert, but also even where they were staying in farming community areas, they were not allowed to own land, not allowed to bury their relatives there. They were moved from time to time. Those who were staying in township were only confined in those townships and not allowed to move in other areas. But in the fight against land dispossessions, African organizations have suffered differences starting back from 1955. I think the first difference emerged during the debate and the discussion on the Freedom Charter, when those who agreed with the view of the ANC, which said South Africa belongs to all who live in it, which included blacks and whites, differed with those who advocated for Africanist view that South Africa and the land in South Africa should be owned by Africans alone. It was at that time when we saw a group leaving the African National Congress to form the PHC under the leadership of Robert Mangaliso Sobuko. But what is also important is that even today, the debate about land and how we expropriate land always produce different views, even from those who suffered dispossession. And therefore, we have undertaken to engage with various stakeholders after consultation on this bill, so that we will try to align our views and produce a bill that will advance all our intended objectives, guided by the objectives of creating a truly non-racial, non-sexist, democratic and prosperous society. In 1994, in the Reconstruction and Development Plan, we said as South Africa, as I quote, "No political democracy can survive and flourish if the masses of our people remain in poverty, without land, without tangible prospect for a better life for all, close quote. And since then, number of initiatives have been employed to ensure land redistribution. Whether you will talk of land commission that came in the late 90s, processing land claims, whether you talk of the recent debate emerging from the ANC conference of 2017 about the amendment of Section 25 of the Constitution to give effect to expropriation of land without compensation. It is important that we debate this in context. Firstly, appreciate that land in South Africa, Africans were dispossessed of their land. But also appreciate that we have taken a view that all South Africans, white and blacks, Indians and colored, belong to South Africa, and therefore are South Africans and have a right over land. And this therefore requires us to discuss the issue of land redistribution in a manner that takes into cognizance those fundamentals. Our country, since 1994, has used 3 instruments to advance land redistribution. The first is land redistribution under the Department of Agriculture, Land and Rural Development. The second is land tenure reform, and lastly, it is land restitution. Land tenure reform happens when the protection is given to people whose tenure to land is largely legally insecure. This may apply to farm workers and farm dwellers or township dwellers who never had title deeds for their homes. Whilst land restitutions happen when people who were dispossessed of their land after the commencement of the Native Land Act in 1913 are granted the right to claim back their land. Land redistribution happens when people need land and who cannot afford to buy that land at a market value, and therefore government distribute land to them, and in most cases government has been giving land to those people on the basis of use it and long-term leases. So these are 3 methods that our government have used to ensure land redistribution. Now, we have been debating in our country, debating land expropriation on people, but also land expropriation without compensation. It is important to undertake or to scan how other countries have responded on the question of land redistribution and land expropriation. As said earlier, our bills seek to clarify and align land expropriation based on the constitution of the country. South Africa is not the only one that is engaging on issues of land expropriation. In the United States of America, they have been doing land expropriation. This is done under the program which is called eminent domain. In India and Singapore, it is referred to as land acquisition. In UK and New Zealand as well as Ireland, it is called compulsory purchase. And whilst in Canada, Russia and Brazil, they use expropriation. The old version of our expropriation bill was consulted widely and presented to the President to sign. However, one of our valued critical stakeholders, the National House of Traditional Leaders, felt there was a need for further consultation. In line with the dictates and the ethos of our government of listening, we then said, let us listen to the National House of Traditional Leaders. We have in the current bill, or currently processed bill, ensure that we take all the views, including the views of traditional leaders, into cognizance. But informed by Section 25 of the Constitution of South Africa, adopted in 1996, the current clause on expropriation bill talks about expropriation of property, one, for public purpose, secondly, and/or public interest. It then says this could be done at a nil or zero compensation. As the department, we have been explaining this previously. The expropriation bill made explicitly what otherwise is implied by Section 25 of the Constitution. Far from being a silver bullet for land reform, we say land expropriation is but one available acquisition mechanism. Clause 12.3.4 of the bill identify instances where it may be just and equitable to pay nil compensation for expropriation of property in the public interest, while the bill outlines circumstances where it may just and be equitable for nil. It does not prescribe that nil compensation will be paid in all circumstances. Now, I'm saying this so that it is understood. Now, a fundamental question here that we have been trying to clarify is that in South Africa, Africans own about 17 to 20% of land, while the majority of land belongs to the white, especially commercial farmers. This bill seeks firstly to enhance the powers to expropriate that, but it does not seek to resolve the tenure rights which affect areas under traditional leadership. And I want to underline that the issue of tenure rights needs a further debate on how to deal with issues under the authority of traditional leadership. But why the government, especially the Department of Public Works, is advocating this expropriation bill, maybe it is important that we give effect to the point that expropriation has been discussed before. It could not pass because the discussions took a form of reviewing a constitution which needed a 2/3 majority. The bill does not mean the review of the constitution, but should serve as an instrument that helps government expropriate land. Now, in which instances we think and foresee it will be necessary to expropriate land. Under this current bill that we are processing, in clause 12.3, we state that it may be just and equitable for nil compensation to be paid when land is expropriated in the public interest, having regard to all relevant circumstances, including but not limited to the following. A, where the land is not being used or owners' main purpose is not to develop land or use it to generate income. B, where an organ of the state hold land that it is not used for its core function and it is not reasonably likely to require that land in future. C, notwithstanding registration of land in terms of the Title Deed Register Act of 1987, where an owner has abandoned the land by failing to exercise control over it. D, where the market value of the land is equivalent to or less than the present value of the direct state investment. E, where the nature or condition of the property possess a health, safety, or physical risk to persons or other properties. Then, and lastly, which is F, when a court or arbitrator determine the amount of compensation in terms of Section 23 of the Land Reform. Now, having said this, why we are steadfast that we need land expropriation, or we need an expropriation bill? We need an expropriation bill because first, we must address the challenge of exorbitant fees that are charged by private and commercial farmers when government wants to expropriate land for commercial or redistribution to farmers who were previously disadvantaged. So you've got a bigger chunk of people who do not have land and cannot have access to commercial land. And government has, according to the Valuer General, have to pay an exorbitant fees. But secondly, there are a number of development that are hindered and cannot progress because some landowners are demanding to be paid exorbitant fees for government to do that development. When government develops roads, it needs land. And some of those will be owned by farmers or other people. And often you get resistance and get charged exorbitant fees. When government provides services such as electricity, we need servitude where electricity will be installed. And in most cases, we find prolonged processes to acquire that land. But thirdly, the most recent one is the painful story of unoccupied buildings. Unoccupied buildings are in almost all commercial cities that exist in our country. These unoccupied buildings are privately owned, and in most cases, owners vacate and leave them unattended because A, they could not afford to maintain them, then B, the maintenance, including rental, is now has become more higher than what they accrue from those buildings. So the recently incident that happened in 2023 in Johannesburg is one glaring example where people leave buildings in cities and those buildings became vacant, and when they are vacant, they become illegally occupied, and once they are illegally occupied, they get rented out by people who want to get money without looking on the conditions of those buildings. As a result, those buildings become a risk to government. We have engaged in a number of processes and programs to ensure that land distribution is done in a consultative manner. President Cyril Ramaphosa, in the State of the Nation's address in 2018, committed the country to the acceleration of land redistribution to address historical injustices. He established the Land Reform Interministerial Committee, chaired by the then Deputy President Mabuza. And subsequent to that, the President appointed an advisory panel to provide a unified perspective on agriculture and land reform matters. And that created a number of arguments in various cycles, especially from our traditional leaders who were concerned that the report was proposing that land be taken away from them. We are advancing this amendment or this bill to ensure the alignment, and this alignment should be in the public interest. And this is not peculiar, it's not a South African unique experience, as I've indicated before. It is also happening in other countries too. It is because of the sacrifices made by a number of people that we have to expedite transformation of land. But it is also in our interest to ensure that we do not create nests for criminals in our country. I have seen a number of unoccupied or illegally occupied buildings, whether in Pretoria, Johannesburg, Bloemfontein, Durban, East London, and a number of such towns where you have unoccupied buildings. When municipalities want to expropriate those buildings, they found it difficult because we don't have a policy instrument that guarantees them the right to expropriate without any payment. And that's why we are putting this bill. The bill is a policy matter, and it's about bringing policy certainty to all, especially important stakeholders who are involved in issues of land management. We believe political parties must collaborate in the interest of the society and beyond narrow political confines to ensure that this bill is supported and it is finally accepted as one of the bills in our country. Currently, the bill has gone through consultation, and I must say, MPC, that during this process of consultation, one of the areas that was consulted intensively were traditional leaders in these provinces. They were consulted and they were engaged, they made submission. We believe that it is in our interest to guarantee the future of our country, have certainty about trajectory of development and about ownership of land. Hence, we invite all of you, in particular political organizations, to ensure that we get aligned around the purposes of this bill. The right-wingers have been, of course, taking a particular posture of suggesting that this bill might be used to further the interest that could not be successful through the amendment of the Constitution. And we have responded to that by making it clear in the bill as to what are the objectives of this bill that we are currently processing. It should be in the public interest to expropriate. It should be in the protection of other persons and their rights and not be abused politically. And with that, we invite you to ensure your contribution on these debates. We value tertiary institutions. We take tertiary institutions as a fountain of ideas. Students, by being youth, they are energetic. They always come with innovative ideas. But students who are researchers have an edge. They produce a scientific analysis on questions that are being examined. And therefore, we believe that you too have a right to contribute in all legislations that governs our country. I thank you.
I believe we're all listening, and we might be giving something probably to either as the minister or just to make a comment about what the minister presented. Now, I'm given 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 student organizations that are supposed to make a contribution. The first one will be EFFSC. Is SC or SCO? Can I check someone that will be representing the EFF? Do we have roaming mics? Or you can just come in the front one. Can we have the one that will be representing JASO? I believe it's DH Student Organization. Can I have the one that will be representing ASASCO during our time? Say. ASASCO? So the one representing EFF, we can in the meantime come to the floor. The one that will be representing the ANC Youth League. ANC Youth League. Then the one that will be representing the South African Student Congress, SASCO. He's telling me that ANC Youth League and SASCO agreed that they'll be represented by one person anyway, this Progressive Youth Alliance, UIA. Then that will save us a lot of time. Thank you so much. 2 minutes.
Good evening to everyone in the house. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Yes, I would like to acknowledge the President of the Committee, BBC Corporation Service, and Deputy Director General, Public and Research, MEC for Transport, Community Safety and Alliance, MEC for Public Works, Honorable Minister Scala, Dr. Manoi, Investor Registrar, and all directors of the university, and everyone who is delegated from the government. Amanda, away, true. Forward with free education, forward. Forward with investment, forward. Forward with public works, forward. Thank you very much. Speaking here is Matu Angerekali. The SRC Secretary General deployed by the EFF Student Command. So we don't have much on our side as the employees of the EFF. Ours is the proposal and the suggestion to the government, particularly the special minister. We are kindly requesting to be assisted with the solar system starting from the University of Maryland, which is going to be manufactured here at Univen. If possible, we can be given a land. We spoke about a land. If the space is not enough, please assist us with such, because we saw it fit that as the institution which is around the land, we can't fail to have something which is going to assist ESCOM, since ESCOM is failing there and there with load shedding. So we saw it fit that now we must come up with an alternative mechanism which is going to make sure that we eradicate load shedding. So solar system can assist us with such. It's a big initiative which I think even the National Development Plan 2030 does support that. We are hoping that by 2030 we must be having energy which is going to be enough for everyone. So we can start that. I think we're not late. We are left with 5 years. With that 5 years we can do it if we can be given enough land and enough materials to start with the infrastructure. So moving forward, we would like to appreciate the government for giving us the land. Remember our hotel Makaro Compass for donating that land. It's a very good thing for us as a student leaders. We are happy because the University of Maryland is creating future leaders. So we are hoping to be working there. So we are hoping that the infrastructure must start as soon as possible, so that when we graduate here, we go and get employment at the University of Maryland Makaro Compass. So with those little words, I would like to appreciate everyone who managed to attend here, all students, all everyone from the government, the management, everyone. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Shaka. How will you do? Long live yourselves, long live. Long live yourselves, long live. Deputy VC of Shabati, Adama Baloui, of Dr. Baloui, the University Registrar, MEC of Florence Razara, MEC Okarari, Honorable Mayor of Police Shabani, and all protocol observed, received the revolutionary greetings from the South African Student Congress. First, the foremost would like to take this opportunity and we appreciate the presence of the Minister here at the University of Vienna. We appreciate your effort to come and educate the students of the University of Vienna about something which is very much crucial. The conversation of land should be had everywhere. If possible, if we need baby showers, we should create an opportunity to speak about land. Because land is a fundamental issue. And land, and our land in particular, as Black South Africans, defines us. Again, it's very much wrong, as you said, Honorable Minister, that only about 70 to 20% of our land is owned by Black people. But then we appreciate the effort by the government to make sure that Section 25 of the Constitution is implemented effectively. We want to see Black people in majority and especially young Black people owning the land that belongs to their ancestors. We appreciate very much the effort by the government. It shows that indeed the government of the people, by the people, for the people is working. And we want to appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, the future leaders. Minister, I don't know if you want to provide based on what the two young student leaders have said.
Thanks a lot. We must discuss and debate land ownership, including how do we utilize land. I think I will start with the contribution from SASO. I think it's a good contribution. But one thing that I have always emphasized is that even those commercial properties that have been restituted, they must be utilized effectively. I'm saying so because you now say, let us debate this baby showers, which I don't have a problem. But we should not take land and have parties. We have seen people giving land and not utilize the effect. And therefore, once you claim land and you are giving land, utilize that land productively. Because land is meant to ensure food security and produce. And we will want to see more Africans becoming part of agro-processing, meaning from production, from planting, as well as production. And one of the discussion we had earlier, leadership, we had a discussion with the senior traditional leaders this morning. And one of the plans they presented is that they would want to see the establishment of agro-processing in Rwanda. And that is one key area that we should aim to. We should aim to have land, but aim to utilize land and then ensure that even what is produced is transformed from being primary production into proper final product. And therefore, I welcome the contribution. It is quite good. comment of the leadership of EFF, the secretary of the SRC. I welcome your comment. Now, I don't know how to come on for the and this but you think like myself. So you think like ANC government. Think like ANC government. So one of the things that we've done, which you are suggesting that we must also bring here, Dr. Martin, at the Department of Public Works, we've started a program called Integrated Resource Efficient Renewable Energy Program, RM. And through this program, we've identified a number of government buildings. And we are saying in these government buildings, let us have one electricity generation through what you are suggesting, the solar system. And we are saying also, let us have water recycling. And thirdly, let us have waste management programs in these buildings. We've identified about number of buildings, about more than 20. And last year we went to the market to request for proposals so that those with business ideas around these areas will then use these government facilities to generate electricity, to process water for reuse, but also to ensure that we process waste and we have less of volumes or tons of waste that goes to landfill. And you are thinking like us because, as I said, you think you have to take my own ideas. I've argued in many platforms. If you study the development of China in the year 2023 in particular, you will see that South Africa is a primary market for Chinese solar system. We are a leading buyer from China. It's good, we are partners with them in BRICS, but you know what? Imperialism is imperialism. Whether it comes from the West or it comes from the East. And what we are standing for is what? Manufacturing in the country. And therefore, these views you are advancing are my views, are the ANC-led government views. And we are going to do that perfectly as you are suggesting. You have taken it further to say, let's bring these two institutions, an eye-opener, tertiary institution, eye-opener is a good, great idea. Institutions of higher learning consume electricity in volumes. And you are then saying, let these plants that manufacture these solar panels be not in far areas that are already industrialized. They must be brought here. And that's what we want. We really are going to support. I'm very happy that you are quite informed, all of you, even by the NTP, the National Development Plan. That National Development Plan is what? It is 5 years now, we're left about 5-6 years. And that's why if you will go back to read the ANC manifesto that was recently presented by President Matamela Ramaphosa in Durban, President Ramaphosa spoke at length saying in 2055, South Africa will mark the 100 years of the Freedom Charter. So while we have planned for 2030, we should begin to plan for what? 2055. And that's where we should be. Because countries that have been successful have invested in planning. So yesterday we had a good discussion with the Nkosi, traditional leader, Matsia. So he said, look, I think there must be people who work in government, but there must be people who are just given a responsibility to think, just to think, because production of knowledge is important. And knowledge must be scientific and empirical enough, it must be tested. And therefore, planning is quite important. It was quite correct for the ANC-led government to introduce NDP, the National Development Plan, in 2030. But we must begin to say, both in terms of the attributes, the milestone we aimed to achieve, and in terms of the sustainable development goals, where are we? And begin to think horizontally. We must think of you being leaders at that time. All of us at that time should have retired. We mustn't be there in 30 years to come. So it should be you who get orientated around these ideas, sustain them even at that time. So we welcome your contributions. Industrialization is key to the economic growth of the country. And I wouldn't want to expand. If I was having enough time, I would expand more. We have minerals in this province. We have minerals, and it's one area that South Africa must confront direct, that we must not be exporting raw minerals as they are. We must be producing, we must be having institutions that support the research on the production of those minerals. But I take the two views and impressed by those contributions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. That was very educational, and indeed is encouraging to hear young people starting to think. And it's also encouraging to hear that young people give themselves time to study the National Development Plan of the country, because that is where we see the future. And like the minister is saying, some of us might not be there anymore, and it is you as young people who talk of the future, and universities do a wonderful job that of creating the future leaders. So we want to take this opportunity, Minister, and thank you so much. Now we are on the last item, Dr. Baloyi. So come in. Oh, my apologies. Oh, thank you so much. Can I do it immediately? Minister, you then come back here, and Dr. Martins is going to hand over the token of appreciation from the University of Birmingham. Thank you so much, Wozaka. Every time you took the minister will always remember that he was once in Slovenia. Every time he's hot, his protectors will always remind him that we were once at the Slovenia. I'm not sure what is in the paper bag, but I am sure of the other one that cannot be hidden. That he will always remember the Slovenia. So there's nothing wrong with young people moving from Israel to Pakistan again, because we do have young people that are leaving the province of Reform. They are studying at the University of Sweden and other universities in the whole country. So please use it as a marketing for the University of Sweden. I'm doing a job for that.
Many thanks to the Director for this opportunity. come and say the last words, which are related to the vote of thanks. I would like to take this opportunity to really appreciate the Honorable Minister for the opportunity that you have afforded to us as a university to engage in this very important subject that indeed, as you elaborately highlighted, is an important matter of national concern. We had a very wonderful program today. Program Director, MEC, introduced the entourage that came with the Minister and asked Dr. Martin to come and welcome the Minister and his entourage and everyone else that accompanied them, as well as the university community. Dr. Martin, in his statement, highlighted the context of the mission and positioning of the university as a very strategic university that is positioned within the UNESCO biosphere, the Makado Bembe UNESCO biosphere, and very well positioned in terms of matters that relate to the subject matter of this bill, with the university focusing on very important programs, including a very robust program on agriculture, and how therefore that this bill becomes very critical and important for these engagements. Dr. Martin highlighted the partnerships that the university has with both local and international partners, as well as traditional authorities, and prefaced the background to the mission of the university in terms of the focus on being relevant and on community engagement. We then had the opportunity to have the DDG for Policy and Research, is the one who came and introduced the purpose of this gathering. Very succinctly introduced the purpose as being the update on the current processes relating to the expropriation bill and the parliamentary processes that are underway in relation to this. And they reminded us of the fact that this is a bill that is based on the mandate, the constitutional mandate that arises from Section 25 of the Constitution. We then had a message of support that was presented by MEC for Transport, Community Safety and Liaison, Ms. Florence Razilani, who also came and highlighted very important facts around the fact that the bill seeks to undo and rectify the apartheid offense, what you call the apartheid offense of deprivation, which confined black people in restricted areas, whereas white people were positioned in arable rich lands, which then created a situation where we have now, as they said, about 17 to 20% of land only allocated to Africans. She highlighted the fact that apartheid placed blacks in places that were very far away from economic nodes, and that the bill is important in that it's going to ensure food security. She highlighted the fact that the bill is not about land grabs, but that it's a necessary process that is going to redress the ills of the past. It's not a process that is going to harm the economy, but it's a process that is going to ensure equitable redress of the ills of the past. We were then introduced to a keynote address from Minister Zagalala, who took us through the processes that are underway in relation to the bill, and highlighted the fact that what is important in terms of the bill is that it is looking at how we can address the issues of land expropriation within the context of the Constitution. where there is no need to fight for a two-thirds majority to change the constitution, but that we need to work within the context of the constitution, and highlighted the importance of this lecture being presented today in the International Day of Women's Rights, where matters relating to patriarchy, sexism, and gender inequality are matters that require attention, and that this bill seeks to actually put women in the forefront, in that women have in fact been in the forefront of the struggle for land since 1652. He highlighted the context of the process, giving us the observations from one of our own, Sol Plaiki, who highlighted the harm that the Natives Land Act of 1913 brought in terms of deprivation of land for the majority of the people of South Africa. He then navigated the issues around the polarized views that exist with regard to the debate on land in terms of the various perspectives, where there are those who believe that land should be expropriated in a way that it favors the black majority to the detriment of other members of society. But he highlighted the importance of the fact that in terms of the policy that has been adopted from way back, what is important is to ensure that South Africa belongs to all who live in it and who work the land. And that is in fact what arises from the way back in the land charter. It is important that we debate this in context. That was a very important observation that came from the minister, that we have to engage in this debate in light of the context of where we come from, and highlighted the different regimes within which the issue of land expropriation was dealt with in South Africa: land restitution, land tenure reform, and land redistribution. But reminded us that land expropriation is not something unique to South Africa. It is something that is in fact addressed internationally in different ways by different countries, and that it's therefore not something that we should shy away from or consider to be not in line with what is acceptable. He then highlighted the fact that the process is underway in Parliament. However, an opportunity is being given to the National House of Traditional Leaders to have further engagement in relation to this, so that we can have an outcome that is acceptable to all. We have then had inputs that came from the students in support of this bill and the processes that are underway. The minister responded to that and emphasized the various aspects of this process, that the bill does not require a 25% majority, and highlighted the various instances of expropriation which are covered in the bill. And therefore, in saying that, justified the process that is currently underway. I think with this program director, I have tried to capture all that was presented today, and wish to express again our full thanks to the minister and his underwriter and everyone.
You can see the Kalanga. Presentation by his own view and by his own presentation. Thank you so much, Kalanga. You can see ladies and gentlemen. Rosita, I wanted to check if I still know those languages that I learned when I was living here. So the Honorable Minister, we know it was impossible for you to be part of the session. You slept early this morning, but you had to be here since morning. You've been within this district. We want to really appreciate you. As you drive back, we want to thank you so much, together with your enjoy, to Dr. Martin, thank you so much together with your intern. So beautiful, beautiful students, thank you so much for making your time to come in. I want to believe that you've learned a thing or two. So remain learning, at least you can see what University of Vietnam has produced, so you can follow the same. So I want to take this opportunity and thank all of you. We have come to the end of our event. We wish we can spend the whole night here, but unfortunately, take care of yourselves. Next Friday, spend your weekend nicely and responsibly. God bless you.